Good morning. This is Luebke with GENEDGE, and I appreciate everyone calling in today. I've had a couple of technical issues going on in the background, and my co-presenter has had some sort of a personal accident, and so I think his presentation we're going to have to make either we're going to have to reschedule his portion or we'll make it available online on our website. But I've got about 15 minutes of material that I'll go through you with, and I think it'll be helpful. So again, apologies, but beyond our control at this point. So first of all, let me just start off quickly, just a quick overview of who GENEDGE is and what we do. Again, anyone on the phone, conference call line, please make sure to remember to mute your phones. We're the Manufacturing Extension Program of Virginia. We are part of the state government for the state of Virginia. And we're also involved with the U.S. Department of Commerce NIST organization, which has been running this partnership program for about 25 years. And so we work with manufacturing, industrial, and research and development companies all over Virginia. We have folks based all over the state, Richmond, Martinsville, Woodsville, down at Old Dominion, and then we have folks working remotely as well. So specifically, what do we do, just very on a spectrum of things? There's three basic chunks of things that GENEDGE helps companies do. So on the front end of business, we help identify market opportunities, we help do market research, we help companies discover new ways to use their capabilities to develop new services or products, and help them look at what the future of the company can be. In the second chunk, it's business operations, efficiency and effectiveness services, so Lean Six Sigma. We do certification support like with ISO. We do business process engineering services and things of that nature. And then the third basic area that we help folks with is commercialization. So we can help folks to articulate their value proposition more effectively, website support services, design services, and basically and help them build their go-to-market approach for any kind of a product or service. So let me begin by saying that cybersecurity, we keep talking about cybersecurity all the time, and everybody's goes, well, what is it? They all think they know what it is. But in fact, it's five basic things. What you're trying to do with cybersecurity is make sure that your information and data is confidential so that other people don't have access to it. It is integrity of data, so that what you do have stored and what you are transmitting is reliable and safe. Your systems are available so that they're not going down, especially if you're doing a lot of website business and that kind of thing. Non-repudiation means that who you say you are is authenticated within the system, so that someone doesn't get into your system and send a transaction or store something or do something, and then there's no evidence of who the user was. And then finally, it's authentication, making sure that the people who are accessing your systems and interacting with you are the people that they are who they say they are. So when you think about cybersecurity, think about this at multiple layers. A lot of business folks look at this as just an IT problem, and they're saying, well, my IT guy's on it and everything's copacetic. And unfortunately, it's more complex than that. While technology is certainly a part of it in terms of your operating systems, your network systems, your routers, all of that infrastructure all has different layers of technical, both controls and software and services that are running on the machine. There are also a number of other things that your company needs to have in place. One of them is policies, policies about what's going to happen when your company gets breached. What are you going to do to try and make sure that you're authenticating and giving people the proper level of passwords and access to the applications and the services that they need, and not giving too much to too many people, because that's where some of the holes in your security structure come from, is lack control of access. And so the policies come into place, as well as procedures. Procedures are a big part of this, and it comes into play with your information assurance policies that dictate where your data is going to be stored. How does it get separated and stored in multiple different locations, so that the bad guys don't get access to everything if they do break in. So you're trying to start separating things and making different little walls around different parts of your system. And then finally, it's about behavior of people. This is the number one issue today, even still. The number one issue of having folks getting their systems breached is through inappropriate email usage. There's a lot of things going on now, especially something called phishing attacks, and you'll hear spear phishing attacks. What that means is the bad guys specifically target individuals within the business and will send emails that look like they're absolutely from the source that they claim to be from. So whether it's your supplier or your customer, the government, whoever, they're very, very good at creating and imitating these different systems and fooling people into using the email and responding to emails because they think that they're using something like legitimate. And so that's one of the biggest areas that we counsel people to start with right now is human behavior, both within your business and your own employees, as well as your suppliers, and understanding how they're using their systems, and as well as your customers themselves. So the specific topic that we're addressing today is something called the Internet of Things. And where this is coming from is basically many things are getting chips embedded into products. It can be your refrigerator, it can be your home security system, it can be your external web cam security systems that are looking at the outside of your buildings. This goes on and on. Anything that has a chip built into it that is connecting to the internet to be able to send or receive data is considered an Internet of Things. An Internet of Things device is that individual device that you're building. You know, the iPhone, or you know, your internet connected lighting system, heating systems, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, that kind of thing. What you have to keep in mind from a manufacturing standpoint is that a lot of products that you are building today will have chips embedded into them. Whether you're getting a chip from a supplier and it is being put into your product that you are then shipping to a client, to a customer, or whether you have your manufacturing line has software and hardware that has chips embedded in it that are connecting to a network. All of those things make up that Internet of Things ecosystem. And so within a manufacturing environment, you can't just think about your corporate IT systems and their security. Well, that's certainly where, what I refer to as the crown jewels are being stored, your intellectual property, your customer data, your financial information, all those kinds of things. Your manufacturing environment is equally or probably more insecure than your corporate systems. The fact being that a lot of what's called a programmable logic controller that is built into a lot of factory automation systems, a lot of those systems were written, back in the 80s and the 90s, and have been in operations for many, many years. And the security systems within those applications and within those different within those control systems have not been updated. And so it is easier to break into some of those types of systems than it actually is corporate IT systems. So I use this example all the time because it's something that we can all relate to. But, a couple of years ago when Target was breached and around Christmas time and all of those credit card data files were stolen and all that kind of thing, the way that the bad guys got in was actually through an automated heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system control, because Target monitors all of their stores and all of the heating and lighting and air conditioning at a central location. All of those devices are all connected up through the internet into a corporate automation control system. And once the bad guys broke into a local HVAC platform, they were able to worm their way up into the corporate systems and then subsequently break into the credit card and financial systems of the business as well. So how big of a thing are we talking about here? Really, what is it that's going on? A lot of the source of this information has come from Gartner, which is a large information systems research organization. They're saying that in 2016 there were around 6 billion connected devices, and the research coming out of Gartner and a report that I just read the other day from Business Insider are estimating that we're talking about 24 billion devices on this planet within the next 3 years. So this is going to grow exponentially. And when you think about all the devices that are connected up into the internet, and the fact that your manufacturing and production lines are going to be connected up into the internet, you're going to have a lot of ability for the bad guys to break in. So within the Internet of Things, all of the devices, there is another area that's referred to as the industrial control systems. So especially in a manufacturing or any kind of an automation environment, you have controls and hardware that are processing data about the actual flow of materials that's going through your system. So there are multiple different layers of these things. Of course, they've all got 3-letter and 4-letter acronyms. But you're basically starting out at the high level with supervisory control and data acquisition systems, distributed control systems, your different processes that are going on within the plant as well. Then you have programmable logic controllers, which are, actually connected into the devices themselves and that automation is what makes the actual device operate on a schedule and do repetitive operations, especially if you're starting to look at automation from the standpoint of robotics, simple robotics doing simple repetitive tasks, up to and including where we see, large manufacturers making automobiles and, transportation vehicles where they're using, the gigantic robots. The fact is, automation is increasing at a phenomenal rate within the manufacturing environment. It will only continue to do so over the next few years. And then finally, we've got building automation and control systems. So those are things like your heating and ventilation, security systems, electricity, water, fire control systems, building access security systems. It can include the cameras, security cameras that are monitoring, both inside and outside of the building. All of those systems now are becoming connected to the internet. And a lot of times what you're going to hear, also you might hear this referred to as an industrial internet or the industrial Internet of Things, or even Industry 4.0. When you hear those terms, that's what's being referred to. So we're talking about a completely new level of automation. So at this point, this is where my co-speaker was going to jump in, and as I said, he has had a personal accident that kept him from being online today. So I'm going to skip over that, but what I want to finish with real quickly is to give you a couple other things that you can access. So we have built a downloadable self-assessment that you are free to use. There's no charge for this. You can go ahead and download this self-assessment, and it'll start to give you some insight into the level of controls that your IT department and even in your manufacturing lines need to start to consider. So feel free to go ahead and download that as well. And so what I want to finish with you this morning is what we're trying to do as a state agency, and what we're trying to do that's different is that I'm building a consortium of technical and policy vendors that are willing to work with smaller vendors at a much lower rate than you would find on the open market, let's say. And so what we're doing is GenEdge is partnering with these technical firms so that we can help you do the risk assessment and the identifying where the gaps may be in your security, as well as working with technical firms that can get onto your systems and do an investigation and an assessment, give you some insight into where the technical gaps are, and then we can work together to be able to create a prioritized list of the problem areas that you've got so that you can begin to whittle that list down and not have to look at this as saying, we have to eat the elephant all in one bite. We can look at from a quarter to quarter or from a year to year standpoint, where does the business most need to invest its funds to increase its security posture? If you're doing business with the Department of Defense and you're going to continue to try to do new contracts with them, if you haven't heard of something called the DFARS 7012 regulation, you need to take a look at that. Feel free to give me a call or look it up on the web. It's DFARS, and that stands for the Defense Federal Acquisition regulation supplement. There's a longer number on it, but the last 4 digits are 7012. In order to do work with the Department of Defense, as of December of 17, your company is going to have to supply a full information assurance security plan as a part of your contract. It is going to specifically require you to meet regulations that were defined and specified by the NIST organization and utilized by the Department of Defense. And it gets pretty complicated, so I'm not going to get into that right now. So once we break down the priorities, the probabilities, and the crown jewels that you're trying to protect, then we can work with you to develop an implementation plan at a more affordable price, again, that you'll see than if you're going for a full, full profit organization. So that's what the state of Virginia is supporting, and what we're trying to do in combination with supporting the Department of Defense as well. So I appreciate your joining us today. I apologize for the shortened version. We've got, I think if you signed up, we have your emails. When I get back in contact with my co-presenter, I will get his materials out, and if we need to record his portion of it and make an addendum to this presentation, we'll do that. So at this point, before we cut off, does anyone have any questions or comments? If you're online, feel free to unmute and give me a shout. Online, use your that little hand up there on the top of the bar, and I can we can have you put some commentary into the system as well. Very good. I don't see any questions at this point. So very good. I appreciate your time and interest, and hope you all have a good day. Thanks. Goodbye.